rock fans, welcome to another episode of Musical People and Journeys, MPJ, new rock album review show. I'm your host Nigel. Welcome to Andy, to Dave, to Trish and to Paul. Welcome, gang.
Morning.
What's the show all about? We review all the latest rock albums, rate them out of 5, and see where they end up in our overall albums, but also if they get more than 4, get into our Hall of Fame. Maybe shortlisted for Album of the Year, which we just did. So and Nothing More Carnal won out 2024. And so some of these albums were released right at the end of 2025, but have spilled over to this year, so therefore we'll go towards this one. And today's offering is a band called Storace and their album Crossfire. Let's see what our panel thought. Trish, we'll start with you then, shall we? Because we don't want to get caught in your crossfire, do we?
Thanks.
All right.
Hell yeah. Right from the beginning of the opening track, I knew this was going to be my 80s rock guilty pleasure, with vocals akin to AC/DC from Marc Storace. How can you not love this? At 73 years old, this rocker knows how to deliver right from the start to draw you into this album. I wrote the first part of this album review before I actually read the track listing, and I see that one of the songs is exactly what I started my review with. Hell yeah. Which obviously is fate. This album was meant to be in my life. No denying ACD is a big influence on Storace, but he's standing alone doing his own thing. I could also hear similarities to bands like Damn Freaks, Def Leppard, Goodbye June in music, who draw their influences from these 80s rock bands. This album is anthemic in every single track, even with the unexpected twist of the album ending on a ballad. You can picture yourself at Wembley Stadium with thousands of other rockers immersed in the atmosphere, beer in one hand, hand horn in the air for the other, head banging, singing along. When an album can transport you to that place, that really is something special and pure genius to reach you like that.
Well, he might not be a genius, but he is a Welsh aficionado. It's Paul. Paul, talk to us.
I prefer being called a genius, but there we go.
Well, yeah, but you have to be a genius to be called genius.
There is space descriptions in place here.
Yeah.
Okay. So Marc Storace has been around for years as the lead singer of Krokus, and for his second solo album, he has surrounded himself with hard rock class. Guitarist Tommy Henriksen of Alice Cooper and drummer Pat Abbey of Krokus. Their talent is there for the world to see, and they've laid down 12 classic hard rock tracks on Crossfire. If you've never heard of AC/DC, Def Leppard, Alice Cooper, you'll enjoy this album. Unfortunately, I have, and Storace more than tips his hat to the aforementioned bands. He practically rewrites their songs, which is disappointing, as more originality would have made this a cracking album.
Now, somebody, if they were original, would also be a cracking reviewer, but they're not, and it's Andy!
I am original. I'm one of a kind. I think you're fine. Yeah, the question is, do I go down what Trish says, or do I go down what Paul says? Was it a solid, wonderful hard rock track, or was it just a bit derivative? And I'm going down Paul's route. It was just a little bit derivative for me. You know, you start it up and you're thinking, right, it's going to be classic rock. And it's like, that's AC/DC. That's Def Leppard. That's that. And it was enjoyable, but parts were enjoyable in isolation. And we put them all together, it's lesser than its constituent parts, I'm afraid. It just doesn't sound new, fresh, I'm afraid at all. I did enjoy some of the songs. Sirens was all really good. I did enjoy them a little bit in isolation, but together, it's just like, I've just heard this all before, I'm afraid. And it was enjoyable, as I said, but that's as far as it goes.
Now, somebody who we have heard before, but not for a while, because he's been on a bit of a sabbatical, but he's back now, and it's Dave Storace.
Yeah, I mean, I could agree with pretty much things that everybody said, to be fair, up to now. But I did think it was very solid throughout, I've got to admit. But, I mean, there's no originality there. There's the obvious comparisons to AC/DC and people like that. But, I mean, I think I decide what sort of mark to give it based on this. And at first I was sat there thinking, well, there's just no originality. But I was like, if you put this album on and it was an AC/DC album or something like that, you'd go, yeah, that's a solid album. And it is. If you were looking for a rock album to listen to, you put this on, you're not going to be disappointed. It's very, very solid throughout. As I say, does lack a bit of originality, so it's probably not Hall of Fame worthy, but, you know, it's solid nevertheless.
Yes. So, lyrically, originality, absolutely. When I first listened to this, and the problem with this is we reviewed bands like Goodbye June, who have AC/DC in their DNA, but they don't copy AC/DC. It's just that the music is based on that AC/DC kind of flavour and that kind of sound, but everything else is original. But there was one time, I can't remember the track, but they just had the riff from Thunder in it. I mean, it was so blatantly a derivative. It was so blatantly. If I was AC/DC, I'd be looking to sue the buggers. Do you know what I mean? It was just so blatant. And that absolutely ruined it for me, because, and I agree, Andy put it very eloquently, actually, in terms of, in isolation, some of the tracks were great. In terms of the sum of it all, it was so frustrating, because there's a lot of really good things. You think, well, guys, you are, or maybe you just kind of thrown it all together and go like, oh yeah, this is like based on AC/DC. Let's just throw this riff that sounded so close to it. It was blatantly a rip-off, and it was frustratingly, because some of the tracks it did have their own originality on occasions, but yeah, highly frustrating. However, highly enjoyable if you like that sort of sound. A highly enjoyable, well produced, well performed. All of that, voice was cracking, everything, guitar play was brilliant, all of that. So, if you can get past that derivative sort of sound and go like, rather than us sort of reviewing it and go like, for God's sake, really, you'll love the album. You'll love the album. Anyway, well, let's see what including Chris thought. We'll give our votes, and let's see if it will get into Hall of Fame. Well, let's start with Trish then.
Well, come on, you know what it's going to be.
Our audience doesn't. It's a 5! It's a 5. Paul?
I give it a 3.
Andy?
I gave it a 3.
And Dave?
I gave it a 3.5.
Cully, give it a 3.5. I also give it a 3 as well. So we're going to drop Andy's 3. We're just going to do it, because I already pre-did it. So there we go. So therefore, let's go 18.5, 3.7 overall. That's a really solid score. It puts it into our top 150 albums. Doesn't quite make our Hall of Fame, though. But yeah, anyway, if you love AC/DC, Def Leppard, etc., check out this album. You'll enjoy it. Just don't cringe when they give you an exact derivative of the original. Anyway, goodbye from my panel. But in the meantime, though, if you do listen to the album and you disagree, put a comment in. Like and subscribe even. Hey guys, what do you think? Anyway, thank you to my panel, to Dave, to Andy, to Paul, to Trish, and keep on rocking. Goodbye for now.